noche le presento una entrevista que le realicé a Richard Gringras, vicepresidente de Noticias de Google. Platicamos sobre la amenaza que representan hoy en día las noticias falsas, las llamadas fake news. ¿Cuáles son los grandes desafíos que surgen en la era de Internet y las estrategias a seguir para impulsar la información de fuentes confiables? Es la primera parte de esta entrevista a Richard Gringras, vicepresidente de Noticias de Google. Richard Gringras, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
You've been engaged with digital news initiatives since the 1980s, I believe. Are you optimistic of the future of journalism?
I am. I'm extremely optimistic about the future of journalism, for the simple reason that, you know, while the internet certainly has had its disruptive effects, the internet basically put a printing press in everyone's hands. It has broadened the accessibility of publishing, and so it can accommodate publishing and journalistic expression from many more sources and many more voices than ever before. I believe that's a good thing. The underlying technologies available to us today, I think, also allow journalists to do things that they never could before. I'm a particularly strong proponent of data journalism, right? We live in a complex world. How can we better use data and statistics to help people understand not just the nature of the story, but its true impact? I think so much of news coverage today, we tend to focus on the anecdote, on the incident that occurred, as horrific as it might be. I think it's equally important, if not more important going forward, that journalists, through the kinds of technologies that are available today, give people greater context. You know, was this an isolated incident or is it a trend? How should I be concerned about it? How should I think about that when I go to the polls? You know, my own personal definition of journalism is, how do we give citizens the tools and information they need to be good citizens? And I think we have more capability in that regard.
Do you think journalists and publishers have grasped completely the potential of the internet?
Increasingly. It takes time. You know, I think publishers for many, many years thought of the internet as simply a new means of distribution, not recognizing that in truth it created an entirely new marketplace of information, an entirely new marketplace of services and information that would disrupt the markets for information, would disrupt journalistic models. But journalists too, I think, are getting much more sophisticated in what they understand about how to not only address the opportunities of this new world that we're living in, but how to use new capabilities, the new technologies, the new means of expressing and engaging with their audience to the benefit of their work.
Journalists are supposed to be good at seeing trends, at foreseeing things coming, but it seems to me, at least, that that the internet has been more disruptive for our industry than perhaps the movies or music or advertising. Why is that?
Because if you think about it, a newspaper in, say, Dallas, Texas in 1985 was the internet of its community. It wasn't interactive, but it provided every information and service I needed to live my life, right? But that's changed. As I said, the markets of information have changed. And let's just look at it through examples that each and every one of us experience. When I turned 16 and my dad needed to buy me a used car, as most dads do, he went to the classifieds of the local paper. When I wanted to find a job when I got out of college, I went to the classifieds of the Washington Post. When my mom wanted a recipe for Sunday dinner, she went to the food section of the paper. When I wanted movie reviews, I went to the entertainment section of the newspaper. Our behaviors today are all different, right? I don't know anyone who would not, if they had to buy a used car, well, they go to the marketplaces on the internet. They go to Craigslist or Auto Scout 24 or whatever the services are in the different parts of the world. So the behaviors have changed, and along with it, the business models of news have changed.
Is the speed of the internet both helping and hindering journalism?
Yes, I think both, right? It helps in that we can get information out there quickly. It can hurt in that We know we can be fast as journalists, and sometimes we might be faster than accuracy has kept up, right? And it may not even be journalists. I mean, one thing we know at Google, which we've tried to address, is when a big story happens, when a news story breaks, say the shooting in Las Vegas, that draws a lot of attention, and it also becomes a magnet for bad actors, for people who want to disrupt the environment. And so that too has had obviously a negative impact. But here too, these are challenges. I mean, this has happened throughout the course of human history, right? Technology, often media technology, changes how societies work. We're now in that long process of changing how we address these societal changes. You know, so at Google, how do we do a better job of understanding when a breaking news event happens to make sure that when we surface articles in answer to people's queries, we're surfacing the most authoritative ones? You know, how do journalists also make sure that they're keeping up about what's going on with a story such that they can do the right thing with their additional reporting?
How do you go about building a business model when there's a conception that everything on the internet, the news on the internet, is free?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perception that is to some extent true, but to some extent not, right? And the truth is that people are paying for content today, right? They still pay for movies, they still pay for music, they still pay for high quality news. And what we're seeing now is, because subscriptions matter, that more people are showing their willingness to support publications with their dollars, either as contributions or as subscriptions. I mean, think about this. The New York Times now has 2.8 million digital subscribers. That's more subscribers than they ever had in their days of print. The Guardian in London goes with contributions. They have 800,000 people who are giving them ongoing contributions. So I do trust our society to recognize that quality is important, that quality news is important, and that it needs to be supported.
What are the keys for that business model, for that, for paid for content, would you say?
The absolute key is this, is from a publisher's perspective, and I was a publisher, is do I have an adequate understanding of how my audience values what I do? And how do I build that value, build that perception of value such that they will pay? Now, again, these things have changed over time. As I said, people subscribed to that Dallas Morning News in 1985, not because they wanted the local news, city council coverage. They did because they wanted the movie reviews and all of those things that I mentioned.
An experience?
They wanted the overall experience. They wanted everything they needed for their communities. It was a different value proposition than what it is today. The value proposition is, I will support you because I value what you do in providing news to my community, in providing the information I need to be a good citizen. That requires a different approach to the audience. It requires a different approach to engaging with the audience that you expect to support you.
What is a satisfying experience that a reader would look for from a publisher today?
Are they giving me not only the information I need, are they giving it to me in a way that I find satisfying, comprehensive? Is it well written? Is it approaching the stories in a way that I would like to see? Are they helping me improve how I think, not just telling me what to think? Is the way I would look at it, and the way I think many do.
You launched Google News initiative this year. What kind of engagement can publishers expect from you?
More and more. And we very much changed our approach to working with publishers some 4, 5, 6 years ago. And simply recognizing with the amount of change going on in the environment, we had to work more closely with the publishing community in our mutual interests, because we both have an interest in the open internet being successful and thriving and sustainable. But that it was important for us to work with publishers to understand the specific nature of their challenges and opportunities and what could we do to help. I'll give you an example. Subscribe with Google, which we announced last fall and launched this spring. It's part of the GNI effort. We don't know we don't do news subscriptions. We don't understand that environment. We worked with 60 publishers around the world to get their input about what would make sense for us to build, right? We relied on their guidance and their ongoing collaboration to do the right thing, right? So that has been a marked change in the way that we approach the industry and the way we'll continue to approach the industry. So I have teams, for instance, that are working on monetization tools like Subscribe with Google. I have teams working on how do we reduce the cost of doing good journalism? Can we provide better tools to, say, in doing investigative journalism, parse through data sets and find key bits of information? Can we provide better tools to, say, transcribe audio interviews, translate content? So we think from our end, we can use our technology prowess to help at every dimension, how stories are told, how journalism can be done efficiently, how do we address the business models. But in all cases, that requires that deep collaboration with people who understand the business of news far better than we do.
Mañana la segunda parte de esta entrevista. Vamos a